Energetic alchemy, transforming daily stress into spiritual gold. What if I told you that the stress you're experiencing right now, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the exhaustion, isn't something you need to simply manage or push through? What if, instead, these challenging experiences are raw materials waiting to be transformed into something profoundly valuable? Today, we're going beyond conventional stress management. We're diving into energetic alchemy, the ancient art of transmuting everyday stress into spiritual gold. Using the 7 hermetic principles, we'll explore how to transform your daily challenges into catalysts for genuine spiritual growth and expanded consciousness. The problem: stress as spiritual static. Here's what most of us face. We wake up to notification overload. We rush through our days juggling responsibilities. We carry tension in our shoulders, worry in our minds, and exhaustion in our bones. And the typical advice? Practice self-care, take a bath, do some breathing exercises. Don't get me wrong, these things help, but they're temporary relief, not transformation. The real problem is that we see stress as the enemy. We treat it like spiritual static, something to eliminate, suppress, or escape from. We spend enormous energy trying to return to some mythical state of constant peace and calm. But what if we're missing the point entirely? Stress, in its essence, is concentrated energy. It's your system responding to catalysts for change. And like the alchemists of old who sought to transform lead into gold, we can learn to transmute this dense, heavy energy into something luminous and valuable. The question isn't how to avoid stress, it's how to work with it alchemically. The 7 hermetic principles, your alchemical toolkit. Let me introduce you to 7 ancient principles that will completely shift how you relate to stress. These aren't just philosophical concepts, they're practical tools for energetic transformation. 1. The principle of mentalism, recognizing mind as the crucible. The problem identified. When stress hits, we become identified with our reactive thoughts. I can't handle this. This is too much. Everything is falling apart. We mistake these stress-generated thoughts for reality itself, creating a feedback loop that intensifies our suffering. How to address it? The principle of mentalism teaches us that all is mind, that consciousness is the fundamental substance of reality. Your mind isn't experiencing stress. Your mind is creating your experience of stress through how it interprets events. Begin by catching yourself in the act of stress thinking. Notice, my mind is creating a catastrophic narrative right now. This simple recognition creates space between you and the stress. You're not the contents of the crucible. You're the alchemist observing the transformation process. Practice asking, what if my mental state is creating this experience of stress rather than circumstances imposing it on me? This doesn't mean your challenges aren't real. It means you have more creative power than you think. The transformation. When you recognize mind as primary, stress becomes less solid. You realize you're not a victim of external circumstances, but the conscious creator of your internal experience. This is the first stage of transmutation, recognizing what you're truly working with. 2. The principle of correspondence, finding the pattern. The problem identified. Stress often feels random and meaningless. Why is this happening to me? Why now? We feel victimized by circumstances, unable to see any larger purpose or pattern in our struggles. How to address it? As above, so below. As within, so without. The principle of correspondence reveals that patterns repeat across all scales of existence. Your external stress often mirrors internal conflicts you haven't resolved. Your current challenge may reflect a lifelong pattern asking for attention. When stress arises, ask yourself, where else in my life does this pattern show up? If you're stressed about feeling unheard at work, notice if you've felt unheard in relationships, within your family, or even by yourself. The external circumstance is revealing an internal truth. Look also at the correspondence between the intensity of your stress and the magnitude of growth being offered. Major stress often corresponds to major opportunities for transformation. The transformation, Understanding correspondence helps you see stress not as punishment, but as information. Your outer challenges are teaching you about your inner landscape. The stress at work isn't just about work. It's revealing something deeper about your relationship with power, worthiness, or expression. This insight itself begins the alchemical process. 3. The principle of vibration, shifting your frequency. The problem identified. Stress has a particular quality. It's heavy, dense, contracting. It lowers your energetic frequency, making everything feel harder, darker, and more overwhelming. You feel stuck in this low vibration state, unable to access clarity or possibility. How to address it? The principle of vibration teaches that nothing rests. Everything moves and vibrates at different frequencies. Stress is simply energy, vibrating at a lower, denser frequency. But frequency is changeable. You don't change vibration by forcing positive thinking over negative feelings. Instead, you work with the energy directly. When you notice stress, feel where it lives in your body. Breathe into it. Allow it to move rather than holding it static. Movement itself raises vibration. Then consciously choose practices that naturally elevate frequency. Gratitude, finding something genuinely appreciable in the moment. Creative expression, music, movement, or connection with nature. You're not escaping the stress, you're transforming its vibration. The transformation. As you raise your vibration, the same circumstances that created stress begin to look different. Solutions appear. Energy returns. You're transmuting the dense energy of stress into the lighter, more expansive energy of possibility. This is literal alchemy, changing the frequency of the base material. 4. The principle of polarity, finding the hidden gift. The problem identified. We experience stress and peace as opposites locked in eternal conflict. We want one and reject the other. This creates internal warfare that actually amplifies stress. How to address it? The principle of polarity reveals that opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. They're two ends of the same pole. Heat and cold are both temperature. Stress and peace are both states of energetic activation, just at different intensities and qualities. This means you don't have to eliminate stress to find peace. You can shift along the pole from one to the other. But more importantly, you can recognize that within your stress lies the seed of its opposite. The tension of stress contains information about what peace would look like for you. The intensity of your overwhelm reveals the depth of purpose you're being called toward. Ask yourself, what quality exists at the opposite pole of this stress? What am I being called toward? If stress feels like chaos, the opposite pole might be order or clarity. Your stress is showing you what you need to cultivate. The transformation. When you understand polarity, you stop fighting stress and start working with it. You can mentally slide your perspective along the pole, finding degrees of relief without needing circumstances to change, and you can recognize the gift hidden in the challenge. The stress is literally showing you the way to its own transformation. 5. The principle of rhythm, riding the wave. The problem identified. We expect constant progress, eternal growth, unbroken peace. When stress cycles return, we feel like we've failed. I thought I dealt with this. We resist the natural ebb and flow of experience. How to address it? The principle of rhythm teaches that everything flows in and out, rises and falls. There's a rhythm to all things, including your capacity, your challenges, and your spiritual development. Stress often intensifies in cycles, preparing you for the next expansion. Instead of resisting when stress returns, recognize where you are in the cycle. Are you in a contraction phase, being called inward to integrate? Or are you in an expansion phase, being pushed beyond your comfort zone? Work with the rhythm rather than against it. In high stress periods, honor the intensity without assuming it will last forever. In calmer periods, build resources for the next wave. Like a surfer reading the ocean, you learn to ride the waves of stress rather than being pummeled by them. The transformation. Understanding rhythm brings acceptance and strategy. You stop judging yourself for struggling during difficult cycles. You recognize that the stress phase is preparing you for the breakthrough phase. This acceptance itself reduces suffering, transmuting resistance into flow. 6. The principle of cause and effect, reclaiming your power. The problem identified. When stressed, we often feel powerless, at the mercy of bosses, circumstances, other people, or our own limitations. We feel like effects without any causal power. This helplessness compounds the stress. How to address it? The principle of cause and effect reminds us that every effect has a cause, and you are always, on some level, a causal agent in your experience. This isn't about blame, it's about recognizing your creative power. Your current stress is an effect, but what are you causing? Perhaps you're causing it by saying yes when you mean no, by avoiding necessary conversations, by neglecting your needs, by holding on to outdated beliefs about what you should be able to handle. Ask yourself, what am I creating right now through my choices, beliefs, and actions? Then ask, what do I want to cause instead? This shifts you from effect, victim, to cause, creator. The transformation. When you reclaim your position as cause, stress becomes feedback rather than affliction. It's showing you what you're creating and inviting you to create differently. This is the ultimate transmutation. From powerless victim to conscious alchemist, deliberately crafting your experience. 7. The principle of gender, balancing active and receptive. The problem identified. We often approach stress in an imbalanced way, either forcing action without wisdom or remaining passive without taking necessary steps. We're either all masculine assertiveness or all feminine receptivity, and neither extreme transmutes stress effectively. How to address it? The principle of gender, referring to creative principles, not biological sex, teaches that everything contains both active and receptive qualities. Transmutation requires both. The receptive principle invites you to be with your stress, to feel it, to receive the information it carries. This is the wisdom of not doing, of listening. The active principle invites you to take skillful action, to set boundaries, to change what needs changing. This is the power of directed will. Most people are strong in one and weak in the other. Notice which you default to. When stressed, do you immediately try to fix everything? Or do you become frozen, unable to act? True alchemy requires integrating both. Practice receptivity. What is this stress teaching me? Then practice activity. What specific action will I take? Let each inform the other. The transformation. When you balance these principles, you become whole. You can be with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them, and you can take powerful action without being driven by reactive force. This balance itself transmutes stress into integrated wisdom and effective power. The summation. Your daily alchemical practice. So what does this look like in practice? How do you actually transmute stress into spiritual gold in your daily life? First, shift your fundamental relationship with stress. Stop seeing it as the enemy and start seeing it as raw material. Every challenge you face is an opportunity for consciousness to evolve. The stress you feel is concentrated energy waiting to be transformed. Second, make these principles practical. When stress arises, use mentalism to recognize your mind's role in creating your experience. Use correspondence to find the pattern and deeper meaning. Use vibration to consciously shift your energetic state. Use polarity to find the gift hidden in the challenge. Use rhythm to accept where you are in the cycle. Use cause and effect to reclaim your creative power. Use gender to balance wisdom and action. Third, understand that transformation is the goal, not elimination. You're not trying to live a stress-free life. You're becoming someone who transmutes stress into growth, wisdom, and expanded consciousness. This is true spiritual gold, the development of your capacity to transform any experience into greater awareness. The alchemists weren't really trying to turn lead into literal gold. They were using chemical processes as a metaphor for spiritual transformation. transmuting the lead of unconscious suffering into the gold of conscious awareness. That's exactly what you're doing when you apply these principles to your stress. Finally, remember this. The very fact that you're stressed means you're alive, growing and engaging with life's challenges. The spiritual gold isn't found in some imaginary stress-free future. It's forged in the heat of this moment as you consciously work with whatever arises. Your stress isn't a problem to be solved. It's an invitation to become an alchemist, someone who can transmute any experience into greater consciousness, deeper wisdom, and more authentic power. That's energetic alchemy. That's the path of transformation. And that's your inheritance as a conscious being. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 7 principles resonates most with your current experience? Share in the comments below. And if this video helped shift your relationship with stress, please like and subscribe for more content on conscious transformation. Remember, you're not here to avoid life's challenges. You're here to transmute them into gold. Until next time, keep transforming.